Hi, my name is Andrew Keates, and I'm probably best known for being a theatre director and a filmmaker. Well, at least that's what I always thought I would be known for, until I did this.
Last year I had the privilege of directing the very first AIDS play, As Is, by William M. Hoffman. And I was amazed that so many people turned to me and asked, why are you doing an AIDS play in this day and age? Surely we're beyond that. I sat down with my cast, my production team on the very first day, and I said, there's a few reasons why I want to do this. Firstly, because it's a beautiful story, the idea of one person reaching out to another and saying, will you take me as is? The second part of why I wanted to tell this story was because of the respect that I have for all those that we lost in the 80s and the 90s. Those of you who have been. And the most important reason, and the reason that I wanted to do this play, was that perhaps if one person saw our little play in a little room, maybe they may get tested. And perhaps that if it came out that they were positive, they would get the therapy that they needed. The thing that shocked me and the thing that terrified me is after the production, I had no reason that that person would be me. I had never thought that I would ever be HIV positive.
Since being diagnosed in 2013, I've connected with literally thousands of individuals on the topic of HIV, whether that be speaking at large-scale events, doing broadcasts or documentaries, to just sitting with people who, for one reason or another, have found that HIV has also entered their lives too. But perhaps the most interesting part of why I wanted to make this documentary is based on the conversations I've had with friends, colleagues, or even total strangers who know that I have HIV and listening to what they think they know about it. This film is an opportunity for me to put together the most commonly asked questions and to give you the real answers about what it means to live with HIV today. I don't know who gave me HIV, and actually that information isn't very important to me. Because looking back, I was a young gay man and I was going out and doing what other young gay men do. And sometimes I'd find myself in situations where I'd be practicing unsafe sex. Now, it would be really easy and almost comforting somehow to find somebody else to blame, but really, I knew the risks. I knew what I was taking part in, and now I'm suffering the consequences. But what is important is it's not like there's this ominous HIV positive figure in my life that went out to infect me. If anything, it's more sinister than that. It would have been me getting into bed with someone that I wanted to go to bed with, and there being something present that we couldn't see, and that was HIV. And after we did what we did, I would have woken up in the morning an HIV positive man, not thanks to malice, not thanks to somebody trying to hurt me, just thanks to ignorance. It's true that I do just take a pill a day, which is amazing really, when you look back at the 1980s and know that most treatments out there were to take the person you loved that was dying of AIDS and hold them until they died. Now I just take a pill. But it's not just a pill, it's a reminder that there's something wrong with you, a little jab in your side. And it's funny, when you rely upon medication for a chronic illness, you start paying attention a lot more to the news about what's happening to the NHS. But it's really important, particularly young people who don't think that HIV is an issue, to know the process you have to go through before you find the right drugs. I had 8 months of hell. I lost about 2 stone in a very, very short amount of time. I would go to bed at night and lie awake for hours with chronic insomnia. And when finally I would get close to sleeping, I would then suffer horrific dreams and hallucinations. I'd wake up in the morning to a bed soaked in sweat, and would often lose my balance as I would try and walk towards the shower. I'd have to hold myself up while I was showering because I felt so weak, and my mind felt like it was suffering from a come down of Class A drugs. I would then find myself, usually by the late afternoon, being able to function normally. But of course, as the evening would progress, if I went to a social function or I saw friends, then came, as expected, the unpredictable bowel reactions to the drugs. I can't tell you how many parties where I sat in a toilet and sobbed. When I went on stage to declare my HIV status, I was very aware that I could be giving up the most important thing that I'd ever dreamed of having. And that was being in love with someone as much as they were in love with me. I'm going to ask you now, would you want an HIV positive partner? Would you want to bring someone back to meet your parents and say, oh, by the way, they've got HIV, and know that your parents wouldn't worry? And then one night, I was in a bar, a real bar, not on an app, but in a real bar. And there was a guy I liked, and we got on like a house on fire. And one thing led to another, and we ended up in a cab back to his. And as we arrived outside his apartment, I sort of broke down and said, I can't come in. I'm HIV positive, and this won't lead to anything. And prior to that, I'd been on dates, and you go on the third, fourth, fifth date, and eventually it comes up, and then you didn't hear anything anymore. And little did I realise that the guy that I'd ended up going home with was a nurse. And he turned to me and he said, I'm a nurse. I know what I need to do to keep myself safe. And you're undetectable, right? Which I was. And one thing led to another. James and I got engaged a few months ago. And I live in a beautiful home with a wonderful partner that loves me and isn't frightened to love me, because I can't harm him. We've got to enable people to see beyond the prejudices and stigma that surrounds HIV and stop putting people like me in this category as diseased, when actually we've lived through enough. We won't harm anyone, and one day you could even fall in love with one of us.